Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a debate that's been raging in driveways and mechanic shops for the last 7 decades. We're talking manual versus automatic transmissions. These are two completely different technologies, both trying to solve the exact same physical problem.
So, which one's actually better? It's the classic driving question, isn't it? People hold some incredibly strong opinions on this. But rather than relying on personal preference, we're going to do a strictly logical, mechanical comparison of these two systems today. We're going to pull back the metal, look at the simple, robust gear pairs of the manual, and compare them to the mind-bending planetary sets of the automatic to see exactly how they both tick. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap so you know exactly how we'll unpack this engineering puzzle. First, we'll cover the problem with engines. Second, we'll go inside manual transmissions. Third, the automatic transmission solution. Fourth, the great transmission showdown. And finally, choosing your next ride.
All right, part 1, the problem with engines.
Before we can even begin to look at gears, clutches, and fluid dynamics, we have to understand the fundamental physics problem transmissions actually solve for us. You see, internal combustion engines are, well, they're kind of picky. Think of them like a bicyclist. They only produce useful power and torque at a very specific pedaling speed or RPM range. Because of this inherent limitation, connecting the drive wheels directly to the engine, that is a terrible idea. Controlling your wheel speed that way would result in incredibly low engine efficiency, and that is exactly why we need a transmission sitting in the middle. It basically acts as a mediator, ensuring the engine's RPM can always stay right in its maximum efficiency range, while the transmission itself manages the actual speed variation of the drive wheels hitting the pavement. Moving right along to part 2, inside manual transmissions. Let's look at the first historical solution at this engine problem by taking a peek inside the classic manual gearbox. A manual transmission is basically just a collection of simple gear pairs, and it's divided into 3 main sections. You've got the input shaft, the intermediate shaft, and the output gears. The input connects directly to the intermediate shaft, meaning that intermediate shaft always rotates at a constant speed. That shaft is then connected to the output gear set, which turns at different speeds based on different gear ratios. But here's the tricky part. Those output gears aren't actually fixed to the output shaft itself. There is a physical gap in there, and if you want the wheels to spin, you've got to bridge that gap. What's really interesting about this is how that connection is handled. It uses a brilliant piece of engineering called a synchronizer ring. This specific little part solves a very messy physics problem. You have a main hub and a gear rotating at entirely different speeds. You absolutely cannot just jam a sleeve over them to connect them while they're spinning out of sync. They would grind terribly. Instead, the synchronizer ring uses a friction cone to safely match the rotational speed of that free-spinning gear to the main hub. It's actually a lot like matching your speed on an on-ramp before you smoothly merge onto the highway. Once the speeds match up perfectly, they can safely lock together. So let's walk step by step through the mechanical choreography required every single time a driver changes gears. First, you have to physically disconnect the power flow by disengaging the clutch pack. That's you pressing the clutch pedal down, which, let's be honest, is your left leg's absolute favorite workout in heavy traffic. Second, with no power flowing, the synchronizer ring pushes against the gear to match its speed to the hub. Third, the hub sleeve smoothly slides right over to physically connect the gear and the shaft. And finally, step 4, the clutch pack is re-engaged. It is a highly coordinated, entirely manual dance. But there's a fundamental flaw in this design. Because you have to step on that pedal and separate the system, power discontinuation causes an inevitable speed drop during gear changes. This required pause in power delivery means the manual transmission is basically a fundamentally unsmooth experience. It's the exact reason for that classic head bob you and your passengers feel with every single gear change. Which brings us to part 3, the automatic transmission solution. So automotive engineers looked at this and asked, how do we fix that hesitation? We're shifting gears now into the high-tech solution explicitly developed to overcome that pesky power discontinuation problem. Instead of a simple gear pair, the automatic relies on this completely different, brilliant mechanism, the planetary gear set. It gets its name because the gears literally orbit each other like planets. The magic here is that it has 2 inputs and 1 output. By simply varying the speeds of those 2 inputs, you completely change the output speed of the entire system. Now, to make this actually work inside a car, an automatic transmission links multiple planetary sets together. The carrier of one set connects to the ring gear of another. Then it uses internal clutch packs to physically lock specific ring gears in place. To change speeds, the system releases one clutch while engaging another. It's this incredibly tight, computerized orchestration happening right under the hood. By putting just 3 of these sets in a series, the transmission can effortlessly provide 6 forward speeds and a reverse. The crucial point to take away here is this: the automatic advantage is zero loss in power transmission. Because that first clutch is being released at the exact same fraction of a second that the second clutch is engaged, there is absolutely no power abruption. You get a perfectly continuous, smooth drive. That means zero head bobbing for your passengers. All right, let's move to part 4, the Great Transmission Showdown. We know the history, and we know the mechanics. Let's transition into the direct comparison phase of this explainer and pit these 2 mechanical beasts head-to-head. Looking at the driving experience, it's night and day. Manual is abrupt, automatic is completely seamless and computer-controlled. But flip over to complexity and repair, and the manual wins on sheer simplicity. It has way fewer parts, making it so much easier to fix. The automatic, on the other hand, is a highly complex, tightly packed arrangement. Because of that simplicity, the manual boasts super high durability, whereas the complex internals of the automatic can sometimes make it a bit less ideal for extreme, heavy-duty abuse. To really emphasize that sheer, brute force durability of the manual, just consider this number: 80%. Almost 80% of heavy-duty trucks on the road today still rely on manual transmissions. When you're hauling massive loads and need bulletproof reliability, those simple, robust gear pairs of a manual are just absolutely unmatched. But wait a second, if an automatic doesn't have a clutch pedal, how do you come to a stop at a red light without stalling the engine out? Well, enter the torque converter. This is a vital component for automatics. It uses specialized fluid dynamics to transfer power. Imagine 2 desk fans facing each other. If you turn one on, it'll spin the blades of the other, just using the air between them. Here, fluid does that exact same work. This allows for mechanical slippage and totally eliminates the need for a physical clutch pedal. And this brings us to a really fascinating contrast in how these systems handle braking. With a manual, pressing the clutch pedal physically separates the engine and the wheel rotation, so a sudden stop won't stall your motor. With an automatic, the torque converter's fluid slippage safely handles that sudden wheel stop for you. Now, historically, that fluid slippage generated a lot of excess heat, which meant you lost fuel efficiency. But it's really crucial to note that modern engineering has largely solved this issue. Today's torque converters are incredibly efficient at managing this whole process without burning through extra gas. Finally, part 5, choosing your next ride. We've covered the physics, the mechanics, and the ultimate showdown. Let's bring this explainer to a close by connecting these engineering concepts right back to your everyday life and your future choices on the lot. What transmission is going to power your next 4-wheeler? Are you looking for the engaging, simple, and durable feel of a manual? Or do you want the seamless, highly orchestrated comfort of an automatic? Or wait, will it be a DSG? Direct shift gearboxes actually combine the very best features of both automatic and manual transmissions into one incredible unit. But that's a complex engineering marvel for another explainer. Keep your gears turning, stay curious, and